At 11. We're live on Facebook at 11. We want to welcome all those watching on Facebook. If you're not coming and being with us in Sunday school, please come. The classes continue to grow, and that's a great thing. But there's more room to grow with you in those classes. So please come be with us. Wednesday night activities have resumed. So we'll be here 5:30 Wednesday night. We'll have dinner, Bible study, and choir practice. We'll be back on this Wednesday night. We're glad to have Miss Tina back with us. Glad she's feeling better, and the whole Brady Moore family is feeling better. You can tell how close they are. One gets sick, they all get sick. So it's either close or very spiteful. If I'm going to be sick, you're going to be sick. So we're glad to have them back with us. So choir practice will take off again this week, so please be here for that. If you're here for Bible study and you don't have one of the books, I'll have some of those. I've already put them in the room. We'll go back, grab those if you want to get one of your books to follow through. Prayer list this week, we have several on there. Start at the bottom. Those that's been added, keep remembering Virginia Townley. She did come off the ventilator this week. She's still in ICU and trying to get better, so keep remembering Virginia. Keep remembering Tabitha. She had her report put in this week. She starts chemo following Monday, so please remember her. Also, let's remember Al Reynolds, Joey's dad, Bill House, the Simmons family, Stacy Smith, Ireland Blackwell, Janice Holtzclaw, Johnny Hulsey, TJ Reynolds, Joseph Sims, Emlyn Brown. Emlyn's supposed to come home today. Is that correct? Maybe? Hopefully get to come home today. Leon Grizzle, unspoken prayer request. And then also we've already added this on there, VBS. It's never too early to start praying for VBS. So let's remember that. Is there any to add to the prayer list today?
Jonna's got surgery on Tuesday.
Jonna has surgery on Tuesday.
Stephanie should be put in and induced on Thursday.
Stephanie's going to have a baby on Thursday. So big weeks. All right. What's happening at Harmony? Thursday, January the 19th, ladies luncheon, 11:30 a.m. in the Family Life Center. Please reach out to Becky or Betty Ann, sign up for that. Let them know you're going to be here. Saturday, January the 21st, men's breakfast. Stan, David, Joey, some of them, reach out to them, let them know. We'll have devotion and breakfast here, and we'll be trying to do a little bit of work afterwards if we can to the new storage closet we're going to be building. So Saturday, February the 25th is a senior adult dinner hosted by Harmony Youth. Details to be announced. Audrey, you got any more details on that?
If you want to attend that dinner, if you could please let me know, me, Lisa, or Sherry, or Michelle, and we will get you added to that. If you want to bring some of your friends to eat with the dinner and do the show, please let us know that just so we can get a number. I need to know those numbers by the 10th of February, please.
Okay. Let her know so she can get the food and stuff ordered and prepared.
And then anybody that wants to do Youth Sunday, which will be the 29th, if you want to teach a class, lead a song, I'm not going to ask you to replace Tony preaching. Just let me know, me or those same people know, and we'd love for you to participate.
Let's remember that. 29th will be the youth service. If you have a device connected to the church Wi-Fi, please disconnect it during the service. Just turn your phone, the Wi-Fi off. It slows down our live stream. We've been struggling with that. We hope Brother Anthony may have a solution to that. He's meeting with some people and trying to get some different things going. He's diligently working on it. So we can't figure it out. We've tried, and we're hoping that we can work on that. So if it cuts off today, those of you that's live, we apologize. They are recording, correct? Maybe? We are recording, so if we cut off, we'll be able to post it on the website. Volunteers are needed to help with Children's Church. We keep announcing this, and I don't know if anybody stepped up. Children's Church is a very vital part, not for you because the children leave the sanctuary, but it's a very vital part because those children get to go over 5 and under. They get to go over and learn the expectations of the sanctuary. They get to learn about the sitting still, the paying attention, the reading the book and following along. So, and they get a ministry lesson on their level. So it's a very vital part of the growth of the church. If we want those to come in 8, 9, 10 years old, 7 years old, we want them to come in and be a working part of the church. We need people in Children's Church. The more people we have, the less times you have to serve in Children's Church. So please sign up for that. See Sean O'Brien if you're interested. You can give online, hbcdawson.com /give. You can give in the box out front. We'll have the plates at the end of service as well. And again, Children's Church is for the ages of pre-K and younger, and they'll be dismissed after the choir sings. Got a little thing at the bottom Carrie put on here today. The question is, how can you make God laugh? And this goes along with today's sermon a little bit as well. How can you make God laugh? Tell him your plans. Yeah, God has a different plan than you do, so let's remember that. Do have one card to read today. Want to thank everyone that showed up yesterday to celebrate the life of Miss Jean Stiles. Jean passed away October the 22nd of 2022. We was able to have the service with the family yesterday. Everybody was able to get here from Florida. Friends, family from all over was able to come. And they left a card and said, Bobby and I want to thank the church for loving our mother. She loved her church and her church family, Kelly, Bobby, and family. And they've made a donation of $500 in the memory of Miss Jean Stiles. So I'll give that to Kelly. Anyone else? Any other announcements? If not, you stand on your feet. We'll go to the Lord in prayer. Y'all awful quiet today. I want to say congratulations to Nick. He got a first place last weekend, a second place this weekend. So congratulations to Nick. So, anyone else, any of the other youth group have accomplishments we need to make noticed? We got to do something about this quietness. Come on now. Appreciate you being here. Jerry, go ahead.
That little girl had her hand raised.
Oh, she did? What'd you have?
So one of my accomplishments is that my basketball team is the only one in AU who has not lost a game.
Amen. Good job. I never played basketball, so we never won. Anybody else? Jerry Smith, you lead us to the Lord in prayer.
Wow. Most precious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for the ability to come to your house once again, Lord, and to hear and to lift up your name.
Bless him, Lord.
Father, I pray, Lord, I pray diligently, Lord, that you have your hand on all these prayer requests, Lord, and the unspoken prayer requests that's in this room, Lord. Father, have your will and your way, Lord. Father, let your word be spoken in purity and in power, Lord. Father, may it touch us, Lord, that we leave here different than we came in, Lord. Father, let us praise you, for you are worthy today and always, Lord. Father, we thank you for all you're doing and all you're going to do. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Page 321. 321.
He set me free.
wonderful song it is, and I love the celebrating of the congregational songs that we've been able to do about how good God is and how He set us free. And now since He set us free, that's why we're to be that light and to show kindness and love to others. It's all because of the song that we have. It's all because of in Christ alone and what He did for us that we are able to rejoice in the life that He has for Him. So it is a song that is familiar, so please be happy, as always, to sing along with us. Seth will have the yellow line.
Oh, here.
Oh, they need you to be yellow. You guys. That's pink.
In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song.
Cornerstone is solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm.
What heights of love, what depths of peace, when fears are still, when striving cease. My comforter, my all in all, here in the love of Christ I stand.
In Christ alone, who took on flesh, fullness of God in helpless pain.
This gift of love and righteousness, scorned by the ones He came to save. Till on that cross, as Jesus died, the wrath of God was satisfied. For every sin on Him was laid. Here in the death of Christ I
There in the ground His body lay, light of the world by darkness slain. Then bursting forth in glorious day, up from the grave He rose again.
As He stands in victory, since curse has lost its grip on me, for I am His and He is mine, bought with the precious blood of Christ.
after she sent me the song, she's like, I really like this song. I'm like, oh, good, you can do it sometime. No, y'all know Katie. Porky, I think that you really, really made a difference in her. But this song, God is in this story. Only words I'm going to say is, I pray that you can see God in your story. But listen to the words. And don't listen to me play. Keep messing her up.
There's torn up pages in this book, words that tell me I'm no good, chapters that define me for so long. But the hands of grace and endless love dusted off and picked me up, told my heart that hope is never gone. God is in this story. God is in the details, even in the broken parts. He holds my heart, He never fails. When I'm at my weakest, I will trust in Jesus, always in the highs and lows, the one who goes before me. God is in this story. So if the storm you're walking through feels like it's too much and you wonder if He even cares at all, just hold on tight to what you know. He promised He would not let go. The song of healing's written in His scars. God is in this story. God is in the details, even in the broken parts. He holds my heart, He never fails. When I'm at my weakest, I will trust in Jesus, always in the highs and lows, the one who goes before me. God is in this story. If it reads like addiction, if it reads like disease, He's the one who frees the prisoner. He's the healer of all things. If it reads like depression, if it reads a broken home, He's the one who holds your sorrow. He won't leave you here alone. God is in your story. God is in the details, even in the broken parts. He holds your heart. He never fails. When you're at your weakest, you can trust in Jesus, always in the highs and lows, the one who goes before me. Always in the highs and lows, the one who goes before me. God is in this story. God is in my story.
In the lottery, 3 girls, that's all they have today. We certainly thank you for being here today. If you have your Bibles and want to turn with us, we're going to be reading out of the book of Matthew, the 6th chapter and the 8th chapter. Be moving around a little bit, maybe a little bit out of the book of John and that of the 18th chapter towards the end. Thank you, Katie, for that song. You'll know why I say thank you in just a minute. Today is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And all God's people said, amen. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. You know, in the very beginning when God created the heavens and the earth, and He seen there was something missing, He said, let us create man in our image. And He created man to rejoice and to praise Him. If you think you have any other purpose on this life, then you're mistaking. Our purpose is to rejoice and praise Him. Even in times of defeat, we should rejoice in the fact that we still have a breath to breathe to gain back a victory. And that's hard sometimes, to be in the middle of defeat and realize and know that you're still supposed to praise God for the storms. You're still supposed to praise Him for the bad times, because it lets you know that there is a better day ahead. I'm going to try my very best to stay relevant today. It's a word we use a lot with the roofing company, and they tell it all the time. Be relevant, stay relevant. Let your customers know who you are. And it's I'm very fortunate, I guess, because being in the roofing business for 20-some years now, a lot of people on the commercial side know my name. And I don't have to do as much work to keep my name out there. I don't have to do as much to be in front. A lot of people that's in important places and distribution warehouses and sales warehouses and things, they know me and they know my capabilities, and I don't have to go and try to sell myself as much. I have other people selling my knowledge and my abilities, and it helps. But with God, listen to this, with God, we're supposed to stay relevant. We're supposed to stay in His Word. We're supposed to stay in prayer. We're supposed to stay walking as close as we can to Him. But this week we was given a thought, and it's simply let Him fix it is the title for today's message. Let Him fix it, because we think we have an indisposable bag of forgiveness. Well, I can keep sinning because God says He'll forgive me. I can keep doing what I'm doing because God says as long as I ask, He'll forgive me. God says as long as I come to Him and I bring my sins to Him, He'll forgive my sins. But I want to tell you something today. That's not an endless bag of forgiveness. Pretty soon, God figures out what you're doing, and God says, I'm going to chastise you for what you're doing. And you bring more punishment on yourself. And yes, you'll eventually get away from that sin, but there'll be other things in your life. You know, this song Katie just sang about depression and about abuse and addiction and the other things in the darkest times. I want you to know something today. That is real in the families of our county and our community. That is real today. And I want you to go back to the song they sang before that. No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from His hand. I want to be very clear where I stand on this today, because, brethren, let me tell you, I've studied it front to back. I've studied it from top to bottom. I've lived it day in and day out. I want you to know something today. Not even you yourself can pluck yourself out of the hand of God. Now, some people will tell you that if they get caught up in addiction or they get caught up in depression and they take their own life, that they'll find themselves in hell. I want to tell you today, that's a lie out of the pit of hell, because God says once saved, always saved today. Now, I want you to understand where I stand on that. And you say, well, preacher, I disagree. You can't take your own life. I've got studies to back it up, and I've got knowledge, and I'll sit down with you and we'll hash it out. And you want to see somebody stubborn, you'll see somebody stubborn. Because I believe with all that's in me that He is. He said He's a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. He'll never leave you nor forsake you. And that's even in the darkest times. I want you to know today we're going to try our very best to stay relevant on what God's give us. But you all know me. Y'all know it's going to be very hard. because I'm going to be here and that little squirrel's going to run across and God's going to throw some scripture and I'm going to take off somewhere else. I never was diagnosed with ADHD, but I believe I've had it all my life. I really do. What I want to talk to you first about today is in the book of Matthew, and that of the 6th chapter, 19th through the 21st verse. And I'm going to try my very best to put this together for you, but this is what we think life is today. This is what we think is important today. Possessions. We've all heard this. He who dies with the most toys wins. How many of you have heard that before? He's got the biggest house, the biggest boat, and the fastest cars, and the most this and the most that. And he who dies with the most toys wins. Well, I want to tell you what I've learned as I've got older. Him with the most toys pays the most taxes. And you can believe that. And with the cost of fuel and the cost of oil and tires and those things, him with the most toys pays the most for service and maintenance. My dad always used to tell me, as I would say, well, and this started very young with me. When I was 16, Dad bought me a vehicle and gave it to me, but I had to pay the insurance and the gas and the maintenance on it. And so I would play football from July till November. We never got to play into December. We wasn't that good. We wasn't like Cora's basketball team. We was more on the other side of the bracket. And then I would go to work and I would start saving as much money as I could to be able to go to spring practice and take 2 weeks off. And then I'd go back to work and I'd work all summer to save enough money. I knew what it took each week, but as soon as my senior year of football was over, I said, I want another vehicle. I wanted to have two, and Dad said, well, you can't drive them both at one time. I want to use this analogy today to tell you this. You can't live two lives at one time. You can't live two at one time. So you've got to decide today which life you're going to live. Are you going to live a life for God, or are you going to live a life for this world? And the Bible says here in the book of Matthew in the 6th chapter, the 19th verse, it says, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But listen to this 20th verse. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So he tells us very plainly in the scripture, in red, Jesus' words, don't put your things in things of this world. Put your hope and your faith in things of heaven. Things that he's told us about. Now, a lot of people want to talk about the book of Revelation. A lot of people say the book of Revelations. It's the book of Revelation. It's when John had a revelation of what heaven was going to be like when he was there on the Isle of Patmos, and God took him and he transformed him to another place, and he began to have an out-of-body experience. And I'm going to say it like this, and it's not going to make sense. Out-of-body, in-body experience. He actually transformed and transported him to that place and let him see it firsthand. He let him hear the angels singing. He let him see the seals of the books. He let him see the golden candlesticks. He let him see the walls of jasper, the gates of pearl. He let him see all these things. And he told him, he said, take this and write it down, because they need to know. Why do we need to know those things? So we can lay up our hope and our trust in those things and not the thing of this world. Now, you won't find many preachers today that will preach the book of Revelation to you, because it scares them and they're scared of it and they're feared of, well, I'm going to interpret it wrong. There's no interpreting it wrong today. There's no interpreting it wrong today. It's black and white. What God put down there, there's a place called hell, a place called heaven, and that was what he was showing him. And he said there's a white horse, a pale horse. He was pretty clear there that sin and death would be judged, and it would be judged rightly, and it would be judged fast and quickly. Let me tell you something today. You'll not spend years there waiting on judgment. When the final call is made, judgment is made. He was very clear on it. And so he goes on there and he's saying that, we've got to lay up our treasures in heaven. possessions are not always seen. I want you to understand what possessions I'm talking about today. There's a possession that you, if you've been saved by the grace of God, you have today, and it's a possession you can add to daily at a cost of nothing. And it's called your faith. It's called salvation. It's called hope. It's a promise. And you all know that I preached last week, God can't lie. He's made a promise that He'll seal you, He'll keep you till the day of redemption, and that promise is real today. And so we all have this possession. We think possessions are seen. We spend our time trying to fix an image for others to see that is approved on by material things. We spend time trying to, well, I've got to be sure to cut my grass and be sure to pressure wash the house. I don't want nobody to ride by and think, a trashy person lives here. I got to be sure to wash my car, and I got to be sure to, wear the best clothes I got to church. I got to be sure that when we're out in public, I bow my head and I pray. I got to be sure that my image is what it should be. I want you to know something today. God don't care about that image. God cares about what's on the inside, and the inside, when it's right, will take care of that outside image today. So stop worrying about the outside and get focused on the inside today. I don't want to preach to you today about what you've got on the outside. I don't care if you've got $1 million in the bank. If you ain't got Jesus in the right place in your heart, I want to tell you you're broke today. You're broken people. And that's what this church is for. It's for broken, confused, downhearted people today to come and get right with the one who can fix it today. And His name is Jesus. The Bible says, lay up for yourself treasures in heaven. Why? Why do I want to put all my treasures in heaven? Why do I want to put things away that I can't enjoy now? I want you to know something today, just like I just said. If you put your treasures in heaven, you'll live your best life down here. You will be blessed immensely. Our heart and soul is what really needs the fixing today. Our heart is and our soul is what God is concerned about. It's not the image that others sees. We got to focus on what God sees and being approved and groomed by Him. Listen to that. Being approved and groomed by Him. And I thought, God, I don't understand this. How am I going to relay this message? How am I going to get this out? That we need to be groomed by God. How many of you here today, if you've listened to me preach many times, you know that I believe there is purpose in life. Amen? Every one of us has a purpose. Every one of us has a job. You say, well, I ain't got no job in the church. It's because you've not given in and took that job yet. You say, well, I don't have no leadership abilities. It's because you've not accepted those leadership abilities yet. Well, I can't speak in front of people. It's because you've not stood up and fully trusted God to speak through you. You say, well, I can't sing. It's because you've never trusted God that what the voice you hear is not what God hears. God don't hear what comes from here. God hears what comes from here today. I want you to know something. Miss Tina will never look at you and say, you've got a broken voice. You can't sing alto. You can't sing tenor. You can't sing bass. You can't sing 10 or 15 miles away. She'll say, that was beautiful and God is going to use you. I want you to know something today. The world needs to hear a broken voice cry out and say, there's joy in God today. There's joy and peace in the Father today. He says, lay up for yourself treasures in heaven. We need to be approved and groomed by God. And we can't be groomed until we get to the groomer. And I want y'all to know, y'all have heard me talk about our dog, our big, fat, lazy dog. Y'all have heard me talk about him. But when they get him to the groomer, listen to what they do. They put a thing on his head and they chain him to this wall. They strap him to this wall. And then they begin to wash him. And I want you to know, if he enjoys anything, it's a bath. He enjoys it. But he's just so big, we don't like to be the ones that does it. But they chain him and they get his face looking forward so he can't see. And he'll sit there and he'll close his eyes and he'll let them do whatever they want to do to scrub him, to wash him, to clean him, to brush him. That's what you've got to do today. You've got to get focused on what's in front of you. You got to go to the groomer, and you've got to get locked in. You've got to get focused. This is, I know today with all that's in me that is, I'm stomping on somebody's feet. And I want you to know something, I'm not done yet. So if you're tender, you're just tender today. Because this is real today, church. This is to get to the next step. We got to be groomed. We got to be focused on what God's doing. So somebody today needs to get focused in front of them and what God's got planned for them. And they got to sit there and they got to let Him, listen to this, they got to let Him take that water and wash off all that dirt of this world. Then they got to let Him put that deep cleaning soap. You know, our dog's white, and when he goes, he's not white when he goes, but when he comes home, he's the prettiest white coat you've ever seen. And she says, well, I use a bleach-based kind of stuff. It's for dogs. Listen, that's what we got to have. We got to have that deep cleaning. You say, preacher, you're comparing my salvation to the cleaning of a dog. I'm just trying to get it to where you'll understand it because I've preached it many other ways and you've not got a hold of it yet. You're still running. But He lets them put that on, and you've got to let Him wash all that dirt away. You got to let Him get in there. Listen to this. Brush out that sin. Brush out and scrub out that depression. Wash off, listen to me, that addiction. Wash off that filthiness of the world. That adulterous thoughts. Whatever you say, preacher, what are you preaching on today? I'm going to cover it all today. Because somebody needs to hear that God don't want you dirty, but God's able to clean you up if you'll just let Him fix it today. If you'll let Him fix it. He says, lay up your treasures in heaven. You're trying to fix something that only God can, and this is your phrase. I can fix this. I've got control of it. No, you can't. Because if you could, you wouldn't be mad at me right now for preaching this. You wouldn't be sitting there saying, I can't wait to get out of here. I'm never coming back because this preacher is condemning me. I want you to know something today. I'll never condemn you. You'll never find somebody that'll love you through sin more than I will. Because you know why? I think you're worthy of saving. I think you're worthy of pulling up. The Bible says He pulled me up, Jerry, out of the miry clay and set my feet on a rock. Listen today, everybody here has a rock. And until the day that you're 10 toes up, facing the backside of a casket, I'm a preacher that'll stand and fight with you because I know there is worth in you. I know there is a purpose inside. You say, I can fix it. No, you can't. Give it to God. He'll make it what it's supposed to be. He'll groom you. I'm going to use that word many times today. He will groom you to what you're supposed to be. I went yesterday morning, and me and Josiah, we set our appointment early, and I went in there and I got my hair cut and my beard trimmed and hot shave and all those things. And as I sat there in that chair, the guy, he's beginning to know me by name now. I've been going for a couple of months, and I go every 2 weeks just because I like it, Miss Tina. And he began to talk to me, and he goes, Mr. Tony, what do you do? I said, well, I pastor a church and not far from here. And he goes, oh, really? I've been looking for a church. Now, he's from Egypt. Mind you, they're all from Egypt, from Jordan. He goes, we've been looking. He goes, but we work on Sundays. I said, well, we're live on Facebook. He goes, will it be okay if I stream in my barbershop? I said, well, I won't be here to watch it, but yeah, that's fine with me. So I hope today somebody that's getting groomed in that barbershop is realizing and knowing this. They're not just getting cleaned up for the world. They're getting cleaned up from God. They're getting cleaned up for the purpose. They're getting a little bit of hope, a little bit of joy, and a whole lot, listen to this, a whole lot of mercy. Who knows today it takes more mercy than it does faith? Because we're going to mess up way more times. Our faith is enough. If we just cry out the name of Jesus, that's enough faith. But the mercy we need to cover our multitudes of sin. Listen to what that mercy cost. That mercy cost Jesus to have to go to a cross and to die a sinner's death, to yield up the ghost and to die there. The Bible says that the malefactors came by Brother Jerry to break his legs, but he had already yielded up the ghost. And so they took him down. And listen to this. He didn't even have a tomb of his own. He was placed in a borrowed tomb. Why does that matter, preacher? He didn't need one of his own because he wasn't going to stay there. I remember Seth singing that very song one night in choir practice, and he stopped and he said, if that don't get you going, then nothing will. Then coming forth from the grave. Listen to this today. He didn't need his own tomb because he wasn't planning on staying there long. He was coming out in 3 days. He was going back in some 40-some days to sit at the right hand of the Father so he could come and groom you day to day to be what he wanted you to be. That's why we should lay up our treasures in heaven. Because listen, I'm going to make this simple. Why do I want to put my treasures in heaven? That's where Jesus is. And all my hope and all my joy, all my mercy, all my blessings are in Him. Are in Him. I've got control of this. I can control it. Whatever's in your life, you can't control it because you're still doing it. You can't control it because it's still got control of you. You know, there for a long time, we had a discussion in our home, and I hope some of you've realized this too. And Miss Tina, I'm sorry, we may be banned today when I talk about DirecTV. But we had a discussion in our home of, we don't live for ourselves. We live for DirecTV. How many of you paid attention that it starts out at $69.99 a month, and before you know it, you're paying $180 and $190 and $200 a month? And I kept telling Alicia, turn it off. We don't need it. Turn it off. We watch the sports channel and the sports channel and the sports channel and more sports channels. That's all we watch. And so about a month ago, she finally gave in and done that. And you know what it's been? You say, well, how's that any freedom? DirecTV don't run my life no more. This week, I had a class that I thought was going to be stupid. I thought it was just going to be the dumbest thing about how to answer and respond to emails. And as I started in that class, the first thing he said is, don't let your inbox run your life. And I want to talk to you about that inbox for a minute. That inbox is other people wanting you to do things for them to make it easier on them. Do you know that today? The reason they send you that email is because they don't want to do it or they want you to do it for them. So he said, don't get up first thing in the morning. And this is what I do. I get up, I check my texts, I see what emails come through. I had a daily alert of emails, and he said, turn that off. Because what I would do before I could ever start my day, I started thinking about what someone else wanted me to do and wanted me to be, where they wanted me to be. Some of you's letting your inbox people run your life. You're letting other people request you. I need you here. I need you there. I need you doing this. Can you answer this? Can you do that? When, listen, today, the only thing you need is you and Jesus today. That's what you need. We're going to go on. You say, I can control this. No, you can't. It's controlling you, and that's what Satan wants you to believe. Satan wants you to believe you've got a hold on it. I've got this. I can turn it off. Listen, you want me to tell you how much we can control things in our life? Yesterday, we were getting ready for Miss Jean Stiles' funeral service or celebration of life. And I said, well, I've been working in the basement. I think I'm going to go take a shower, get ready. And I get in there, and I'm in the shower, and the head's full of soap. And next thing I know, the water cuts completely off. So I'm tapping on the wall. Nobody comes. I tap just a little bit harder, and nobody comes. And about that time, I'm starting to get cold. I said, Alicia, why is there no water? She said, well, it's working in the kitchen, but it ain't working in my shower. Josiah had went downstairs and turned on the water to get a mop bucket full to mop his basement, and all the pressure being the lower point went to there and cut me completely off. You say, well, I can control everything in my life. Wait till you're standing in the shower with no water and your head's full of soap and God's in the middle of grooming you and you're sitting there and you're saying, I got this, God, I got this, God. And he says, I'm taking my water. He says, I'm taking my water. You think you're cleaning yourself up? You don't control the water. He says, I am the living bread of life. I'm the bread of life, the living water. Those who drink from me will never thirst again. You say, well, I can clean myself up. What happens when God takes His water? What happens when God takes the bread and takes the substance that you're feeding from? How many of you have ever heard the story, I don't want to call it a joke, but the story about a scientist who was arguing with God and said he had finally found a way to create man, that we didn't need God anymore. God said, okay, go ahead. I want to see this. And the man began to get things together, and he began to get there, and he pulled up some dust, Brother Jerry, and he put it in a pile, and he stopped and he put his gloves on, and he goes, this is where it gets interesting. And he reached over to get this beaker full of chemical he had made and to pour it onto the dust. And about that time, the wind came and blew the dust away. And he said, God, what are you doing? He said, get your own dirt. He said, you can't do nothing without me. That's my dirt. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He spoke them into existence. So the quicker we learn that everything about this place belongs to God, the better off we are. So he goes on. How can I just turn it over to God? How can I, with pride and dignity and trust, knowing that God's going to fix it, how can I just turn it over to Him? I'm going to tell you this, and this is a very bold statement. If you're trying to turn it over to God with pride, you'll never turn it over to God. He says, humble yourselves. Humble yourself. You can't be humble and prideful at the same time. You can't be. Well, I'm the man of the house, or I'm the mom of the house, or I'm the favorite child, or I'm the only child, or I'm this, or I'm that. I've got to be the rock. I've got to be the strong one. You know what God does? God says, humble yourselves. Matthew 8, 1-4 says this. And I'm going to tell you how quick you can turn it over to God. When he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. Jesus at this time already had formed a pretty good following, and everywhere he went, people were seeing how he was doing things and making the blind to see and the lame to walk and turned the water into wine, his very first miracle. And they're starting to catch on, and there's something about this man named Jesus. Now I want you to know this. They never would say he is the Messiah. But there was something about him. They was wanting to see more. They was wanting to see more of these miracles. They was wanting to see more of these life-changing events. You want to know something today? The more you're around Jesus, the more you want to see those life-changing events. That's why I'll stick with you till the world ends, because I want to see God change your life and give Him honor, glory, and victory in all of it. This is what he says there. He says, when he had come down, he had a great multitude following him. And behold, there came a leper. What is a leper? A leper was someone who had a skin disease. And this leper was set apart from the others. Whether you know this or not today, the condition in your life has you set apart from others. Somebody say amen. Amen. What's going on in your life has you set apart from others. And they had to go and they had to live basically in exile. And they had to come to that of the priest, and they had to look, and he would inspect their body and see how clean they were. Seth will be able to stand up and tell you this, I'm sure, in the book of Leviticus. There was a certain amount of days that, y'all know the first 3 years I was here, Sunday school. It was 3 years. I'm preaching, you study. Seth taught Leviticus every Sunday. I learned more about the ordinances of leprosy and the atonement of sin in those 3 years than I ever had. And finally I went to him and I said, Seth, I think I'm going to move up to the adult class. Now I know it, right? But they would come and they would let the priest inspect them and see if the skin had become dry, if it became without scale, if it became without the irritation. Then they would wait another 7 to 14 days. And then they would come back and they would be checked again, because leprosy was a very horrible disease and they was afraid it would wipe out their whole community. So they would put them aside. Why today are you letting sin put you aside and separate you from your family? separate you from your loved ones, separate you from the ones, the church. Listen, that's the biggest thing. Whether you know this or not, Harmony Church needs you, and we need you to be separated from that sin in order for God to groom you and use you for the purpose you have here. So he was a leper. Listen to what he done though, and he worshiped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. I don't know how many days he had spent on this island or in this desolate area. I don't know if he had been there weeks or months. I don't know how many times he had been back before that of the priest to see what his condition was. I don't know. But at this time, the only hope he had was he had heard about this man named Jesus. And he's seen this multitude following him. And listen to what he done before. This is what I meant to tell you. In the darkest moments, you must worship him. Before he was made clean, if the Bible says it very clear, he worshiped him. He worshiped him before he asked him. He worshiped him before he made him whole. He worshiped him when he had no evidence that he could clean him. He had no promise. He had no signed contract. He had no commitment, but he worshiped him. I'm going to ask you all today, can you worship God in the storm? The other night when those bad storms were coming through West Georgia and starting to come through LaGrange and all those things, our prayer was, as we have some members now that live down in LaGrange, John and Deborah, they live down there. And I sent them a text and I said, I'm praying God's protection. He said, we're going to give God glory for the victory already, even before the storm came. I want you to know something today. You've got to give it to God before the storm even gets there. You've got to give it to God before the loss comes. Before the despair comes, you've got to give it to God. And I want you to know something. The only way you can do that is being humble without sin in your life. But he goes on, it says he worshiped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Jesus put forth his hand. This is how you can give it to God. Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. That's how fast it happened. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. Now you're going to find there where Jesus told him, don't go tell anybody, don't go say anything, don't talk to man. And you flip on over, if you would, to the next few verses, and you'll find there that he didn't have to go to the priest. He didn't have to go be looked upon. He didn't have to go be judged. That's the word I want to use today. He didn't have to go be sentenced. He didn't have to go be inspected. When God cleans you up, when Jesus gets a hold of you, the world doesn't have to inspect you to find you worthy. What happens is when Jesus cleans you and he saves you and he sets you on that path, the world itself has to trust that Jesus made them clean. Jesus give them hope. The leopard came worshiping. He was still a leopard. But he was worshiping. You've come in here today and you've got sin in your life and you're saying, I'm mad. Preacher's preaching to me, at me, on me. If he'd come back here and sat in my lap, I'd punch him in the nose. But I want you to know something. This is what you should be doing. Listen to me real close. Anthony, Tina, y'all come get a song. Listen to me real close. You should be sitting there saying, thank you, Jesus, for sending this message for me. Thank you, Jesus, for sending this message for me. How long will it take? He said, I will. And he was made clean. This message is not just about you today. Well, Pastor, if it's not about me, why is it so important? I can fix myself. But now you've just turned around and told me it's not just about me. No, you can't. I'm going to say that one more time. I've said it 3 times already. You can't fix yourself. Only God can fix you. But this is what it's about today. It's about those that need you. to be the husband, the wife, the son, the daughter, the mother, the father, the aunt, the uncle, the niece, the nephew, the friend, the brother, the sister. It's about you and how you're needed by all those people in your life. And you're being, listen to this, I'm going to say this one time and one time only. You're being selfish today and saying, but I'd be less happy if I didn't have this. Well, I promise you this, you've not tried Jesus, or you'd know there's nothing on this earth compares to the love of Christ. Nothing. All these people need you to realize God's the only one that can fix this. God's the only one that can take this problem and make it a blessing. God's the only one. Listen, how many of you have ever heard that? I am the clay and He is the potter. I want you to know something today. Jesus is still spinning that wheel. And He's still putting water on. You say, well, I've become set. I've become fixed. There's no way. Listen to this. You have this if you want or not, but I learned this a little bit in art class when I was 7th or 8th grade. Until that clay has been fired in the furnace, listen to me. In other words, until you hit hell wide open, God can still mold you and make you. He's just got to put a little more water on you. It just takes a little more time. You say, well, I've become hardened. I've become callous. You know what you've become? You've become stubborn. And you need to give in to God and let Him apply some living water to your life and let Him mold you again. Let Him shape you. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Where are you today? Who are you today? Where are you? Where are you in your walk with Christ? And who are you in your walk with Christ? You're either one of 2 things, obedient or disobedient. You're either being obedient to Christ or disobedient. Let Jesus fix you today. Let Jesus take hold of you. Let me pray with you today. Preacher, what special powers you got? None, but I know one that has them all. I say this all the time. Those men on TV walking around, prosperity preachers, preach about their gold watches and their gold tennis shoes and their houses, how they have chandeliers hanging in their homes that cost more than most people's homes. And they get up there bold in the pulpit and say, well, I do this and God has blessed me. I may not have the biggest home of anybody here. And that chandelier hanging in my home, listen, anybody want to come by and dust it off, you can, because it's dusty. Amen? I may not have the biggest home. I may not drive the nicest cars, and I don't have a lot of money in the bank. But I want you to know something. Jesus has blessed me because I've got friends that I will walk through the pit of hell of fighting with today because I know their worth. I know their worth today. I know that God has a plan, and I know that if I get focused on myself, I believe with all that's in me that this world could be a different place. I believe that because I know God, I believe if I wanted to push an envelope and I wanted to try, I could go out and I could start something and I could get people to follow. Brother Jerry, I believe that because I believe God can do all things. I believe I could go out and I could preach this prosperity about how, take care of the preacher and taking care of yourself. But that's not what I want. I want you to see a broken man coming preaching to broken people about what God can do. I was born into this world with nothing. I'll leave this world with nothing but the blessings God has bestowed upon me. And I want you to know something today. It's every one of you that are sitting here. My biggest fear is losing someone. Listen to this. Someone else. Because I've lost a couple. My biggest fear is losing someone else, thinking that this position is better than that position and I'm unreachable. That's why I like to spend time down here. That's why I like to spend time with you at dinner. I like to spend time with you in your homes. God can fix it today. Jesus is sitting there. Listen, he's done put the apron on. He's got his hands wet. He's Tyler spinning that wheel. And he's ready to take your big hardened heart of clay and throw it down on that wheel. And he's ready to get a hold of it with his hand. And he's ready to push in there. He's ready to push out that sin. He's ready to push out those lies. He's ready to push out that adultery. He's ready to push out depression and drugs and alcohol. He's ready to push it out and put him back where he belongs. Stand to your feet. This altar is open. Who are you today? Where are you today? And why won't you let Jesus fix you? Where are you at? There's a field. There's a field wide unto harvest. Listen to that today. That's the Bible. That's not a pastor making things up. But if you decided that it's your field, Jim, have you decided that God's blessing you? Have you decided that this is your purpose? This is where I want you to be. I want him to sing, it is so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his every word. And I'm going to re-say something I've already said. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Who are you? Where are you today? Sing that verse. Sing it.
Jesus, Jesus.
and my wife came here since Easter. And as you hear my mother-in-law, you know, she's all happy. I've always felt this notion that I need to go somewhere and become more than what I am. And Tony's always reached out to me, and he's always told me, since we've been coming here, that y'all been searching for someone that's a preacher that also can help with the youth in some way. And I've always been felt led to go towards children and help kids in any way that they need. And I've been dealing with it for quite a while, since, what did you say, last Easter that we came? And I love the youth here. I love how they're all intertwined together. I love how they're all knowing everybody by name. They all come in here and they're not bashful of any way, shape, or form of who they are. I just love how everything has been here, and I just love the people that are here. I love the spirit that we feel here. Most of all, I love just y'all in general that I've come to know by name. And we would like to come under the watch care from Friendship to here. I would like to become a licensed minister here. Just move my letter from Friendship. Y'all take it.
You heard their request. They're going to come as a couple. Tyler is a licensed minister at Friendship Baptist Church. And the clerk, when he requests that, can request his license as well. And after he's here, what typically happens at Harmony is we put him on a 1-year period to prove to us that license and to prove to us. You say, why do we do that? I don't know. I didn't make that rule. But I'm just putting it out there that we put him on 1 year before we list him in the paper. But he wants to come as a licensed minister and be a member here. Skylar wants to come from Friendship as well. We're going to accept them both under the promise of a letter under the watch care. Who would make a motion?
Make a motion to be accepted under the watch care.
Brother Anthony Marcus made a motion to be accepted under the watch care. Need a second.
Second.
Brother Stan Worley makes a second. There be any discussion on this? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it, motion carried. We will come around and give them the right hand of Christian Fellowship. Then after we receive their letters, we'll give them the right hand of Church Fellowship. Give them all rights to any male or female member in the house of God. Anybody have anything anyway today? We do have conference today, so as we come around, and I'm going to explain this, and I don't know if y'all will get it right this time or not. We're going to start right here with these young boys. They're going to come across, and they're going to go this way, shake hands, and come back through. When they finish back there, Ashley, you're on the last row. When Tabitha comes through, you're going to follow Tabitha, and you're going to circle this way. Once Caroline comes through, Brother Anthony, I got some good leaders in place today. He's going to come this way and follow through. But I want to be clear on this. At any time you get through this altar and you need to stop and pray, this don't close the altar today, folks. This just occupies it and gets you up here. That's what it's for. It's a pathway. So anytime you need to stop and pray, you feel led to pray. After that, if you need to go, if you shake hands, if you need to go, feel free to go. But those that will gather back in here, we're going to have our regular scheduled conference. We shouldn't take too awful long. And so after that, we'll do that, and then we'll dismiss. So before we come through, does anybody have anything anyway?
Gabby has something.
Gabby?
I have a prayer because I hope my sister gets home.
Yes. Savannah's in Kentucky on a mission trip. She sent me pictures the other day. They had about an inch of snow up there. And I said, I hope you took warm clothes. But she's having a good time up there. I've been texting back and forth with her. She's having a good time. Pray for her. Anybody else?
I just asked, Morgan went back to college last weekend, but she'll be doing a good bit of traveling between now and through our spring break with archery and shotgun. A
Morgan. Remember Zach? He's driving now. He's probably Chattanooga, about that area now.
Ethan will be on his way back tomorrow from Disney trip.
Ethan's coming back from his church youth trip, so some of our kids are traveling. Let's remember them. Anybody else?
I'd like to ask a prayer, for, Abby and them with Creative, had a bad situation to take place this week. A father that was left with his disabled child, or she's adult, the wife died about 3 years ago with cancer, and, he was the only caretaker for her. It was a murder-suicide. He took her, shot her and then shot himself. So, just remember that family, Creative family. It's just a sad situation that people really don't think about a lot of times. It's a 24/7, 365 days a year. And let's just pray that our government will do more to put more funds out there to help get these people more help that they need.
Yes.
And also, I know this is also, but a Georgia football player was killed early this morning. So yesterday they were celebrating, but today they're going to be mourning because they lost one of theirs. The first thing that always comes to my mind, and there was also another old young lady that was killed also that recruited for the football team. But the first thing that comes to my mind is, was they saved? Anytime I see something like that. So, and as me and you know from an essay that we got, you never know what you can do to pluck someone's heart, to say things to them, and just never be ashamed, and always just say what you feel, and put God out there, because everybody needs Him.
Anyone else?
Could we have a quick conference to read some letters of reference, and then maybe we can have them all there first?
Yeah, that'd be fine. They'll be seated up there just for a minute. Everybody be seated just for a minute. That makes a lot of sense. Brother George. You okay with that, Kip? Yeah. Come on now. We have some letters, and we're gonna be shaking hands so we can get all this in one pass. So at this time, I'd entertain a move to go into conference under the heading of